Well, obviously, after a win like that, we have to do an emergency episode of Locked On Mariners. So here it is. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
My word, what a game that was. Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast, an emergency episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast, hosted by yours truly, Gonzales. No Colby tonight. He's out and about enjoying his Sunday night. Didn't really think that the Mariners were going to play in a game today that was going to require an emergency episode. So, alas, here we are. The Mariners win 8-7 over the Atlanta Braves. And thank you so much for making us your first listen after the game. What a win it was for the Seattle Mariners. We're obviously going to talk about the insane finish to this game. Also want to talk about Marco Gonzales' start, which unfortunately is going to be drowned out by the way that this game ended, but it was a fantastic start nonetheless. Gave the Mariners everything they needed and then some, so I want to show some love to Marco later on in the show. We're also going to talk about Mitch Haniger, who unfortunately left this game with lower back tightness. We'll talk about what that means and what it could mean for the Mariners down the road. But first, let's start out by hopping into this game. What an insane finish it was at T-Mobile Park today. The Mariners seemingly were cruising to a win and a series win over the defending world champion Braves. They were up 6-1. J.P. Crawford added some insurance on an RBI double. But then Michael Harris II hit another home run in this series. It was a solo home run, which made it 6-2. But the Mariners were still, feeling pretty good about themselves. Didn't seem like there was much of a threat. Obviously, you always got to be on your toes when it comes to a team like the Braves. But it seemed like this game was still relatively in hand. But no, it certainly was not. Diego Castillo could not find the strike zone to save his life in the top of the ninth inning. Was able to get 2 outs, but then Michael Harris II struck once again with a 3-run bomb to the Hit It Here Cafe. It was just absolute nuke. And then Paul Sewald came in, and it seemed like, all right, well, they still have a 1-run lead. There's no one on base now. Obviously, the Braves have some momentum, but there isn't pressure with guys on base at least. So Sewald should be able to close the door. Nope. He ends up giving up a 2-run home run to Robbie Grossman, who was an absolute pest this whole series. And at that point, it looked like the Mariners were going to suffer their most deflating loss of the season today. Just absolute gut-wrenching loss. But Julio Rodriguez and Eugenio Suarez say, wait just a minute. Julio hits his second home run of this game, 117 mile per hour exit velocity off of the bat, off of Kenley Jansen, one of the most decorated relievers in all of baseball, to knot things up at 7-7. And then Ty France comes in as a pinch hitter for Taylor Trammell, who replaced Mitch Haniger. Not a big fan of that decision. He ended up generating an out, and with France's wrist barking, as Scott Service put it today, which earned him the off day in the first place, just didn't really feel like that was the move there. But it didn't really matter in the end because Eugenio Suarez follows that up with his second home run of the day and his 30th home run on the season. Once again, the Jesse Winker trade was actually the Eugenio Suarez trade. Eugenio Suarez is quickly becoming a Seattle Mariners legend with what he's been doing over the last week or so. What he's been doing this whole season. He just keeps on hitting bombs and keeps on bringing the good vibes. As he walks off the Braves, walks off Kenley Jansen in this game. I mean, if there was any doubt about who the Mariners are, what their ceiling is, if they were going to suffer an all-time collapse to, fumble their best and greatest chance to finally end this 20-year playoff drought, I think they put all of that doubt out of everyone's minds today. And it's for reasons and for moments like the one that we saw today. This team just doesn't get too low on itself. Even when it does suffer, deflating, heart-wrenching losses like it was going to today. It always finds a way. This group of men always finds a way to bounce back, and they did immediately in this game. It's not often that the offense has had to pick up the slack for this team in 2022. The pitching has been immaculate. We haven't really seen a blow up like this from this Mariners bullpen this season. You think about last year, there were a couple times Diego Castillo contributed to a pretty tough loss in Texas. Cleveland was another one. I'm sure Mariners fans remember that one with Paul Sewald. But we haven't really seen that this year. And in a way, it kind of felt all right, well, it's inevitably coming because even really, really good bullpens, the elite bullpens, have bad days. And today was certainly a bad day for the Mariners bullpen. But we haven't seen this offense really pick up the pitching. And today it did that and then some. Scoring 8 runs off of this pitching staff is an incredible feat. It doesn't matter that Jake Odorizzi started this game and he is the dictionary definition of mid. But to score 8 runs off of this pitching staff and to score the final 2 off of Kenley Jansen in a save situation, and a really big game for both teams, right? Because the Rays, the Jays, the Orioles all lost, so there was a huge opportunity there for the Mariners. And the Braves are trying to win the National League East. They're just going back and forth right now with the New York Mets. So a lot on the line for both of these teams. And the Mets, by the way, won today. So, the Braves were just trying to, keep in line with them there. Just game on the line, potentially, high in aspirations on the line for both of these teams. For the Mariners, the wild card one. For the Braves, the division. And you just saw 2 teams collide in the most spectacular fashion tonight, with the Mariners coming out on top. Yes, your Seattle Mariners just went toe-to-toe with the defending World Series champions, who stunned them in the top of the 9th, took a 1-run lead after the Mariners were absolutely cruising, and didn't blink. The Mariners did not blink in this game. They came right back and shoved it down Kenley Jansen's throat with some huge, huge home runs. What a game this was. What a game this was for the Seattle Mariners. And like I mentioned, Blue Jays lose. Orioles lose. Rays lose. All of them lost. All of the teams that you needed to lose lost. The Mariners now have a 6-game lead over the Baltimore Orioles. They're going to end the drought. And they only have 2 games left against a team with a record currently above 500. That's the San Diego Padres. They come to town for a 2-game set on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then that's it. It's smooth sailing from there. Of course, injuries can still happen, and injuries are happening. We'll talk about that later on, but this team is in such good shape. And it showed you exactly why, with moments like this, with moments like what we saw in the bottom of the 9th, that this team is not just a playoff team. It's a team that can make a deep run into the postseason. God, it's so nice. That's so nice. That's so nice to say. That's so nice to see the Mariners go into a big series at T-Mobile Park. You got big crowds at T-Mobile, and it always feels like the Mariners just kind of disappoint in those situations, but not this time. It was so nice to see them go up against one of the best teams in baseball and not back down, even when things got really tough on them, and they end up clutching out a series win after a rough night on Friday night. And a rough series against the White Sox. Like I said, this team just does not get too low on itself. It doesn't let things snowball. Not since early on in the season. They haven't looked back since then. If things go wrong, oh well, we got tomorrow. And that's really been the Mariners' approach all season long. That's, of course, indicative of their leadership, Scott Service, who, of course, didn't have the best day today. We'll actually talk about that in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners post-game show. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after this wild, wacky, very Mariners-esque win over the Atlanta Braves. And I feel like this is a good time to remind our listener, that we're doing a special project on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Later this month, we want to do a special episode of Locked On Mariners featuring you, our listener. We want you to submit a roughly a 45-second to a minute-long video of you telling us who you are, how long you've been a Mariners fan, and what the Mariners finally ending this playoff drought, because they are going to do it. Like I said, they are going to do it. If their odds are not at 100% right now after that game, I mean, what are we doing here? They should be. This team is making the postseason. But yeah, leave us a video saying who you are, how long you've been a Mariners fan, and what ending the playoff drought would mean to you. You can email your submission to lockedonmariners@gmail.com. Get it to us by Friday, September 16th. That's this Friday by 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, or sorry, Pacific time rather. I'm on Eastern time, but we'll do it on Colby's time and most of your time. So 11:59 p.m. East or Pacific time. Geez, there I go again. To get us your video submissions, and if you get it to us by then, you're in. You're going to be in the episode. All right, so I just I want to quickly address Scott Service's role in the blown lead today, and a couple of the other decisions that he did today that I wasn't particularly fond of. But the big one, of course, how he handled the bullpen today, going to Diego Castillo in the top of the ninth. I don't like it. I know that they were up by 4 at the time, but Andres Munoz, I believe, only threw 4 pitches in the 8th inning. I might be wrong on that. Correct me if I am down in the comments, but I believe Andres Munoz only threw 4 pitches. He should have went back out in the ninth. Doesn't matter that it was a 4-run game. You have the off day tomorrow before you play San Diego. I think that's inexcusable to not keep Munoz in the game and go to Castillo, who's been really shaky as of late, and also Sewald has been really shaky as of late as well. Those are just 2 guys right now. Obviously, you want to have faith in them because the track record and everything, but right now, just what have you done for me lately? Both of those guys have not been incredibly trustworthy. So I think the Mariners just ended up putting themselves in a pretty disadvantageous spot going to Castillo here against one of the best lineups in baseball, and it hurt them. I think that should have been Munoz, who was spectacular in his appearance today. The other decision that I didn't like from Scott Service was pinch hitting Ty France for Taylor Trammell in the bottom of the ninth. This ultimately didn't matter. I just thought that keeping Trammell's glove in right field for potential extra innings, and with France dealing with his wrist still, Scott Service said today that his wrist is quote unquote barking, and he wanted to give him an off day today, especially with the off day tomorrow, just to give him some extra rest. Putting him in the game today, I thought that was I don't know, especially with the righty and Jansen up. I thought putting Trammell out there, a lefty, and keeping his defense in the lineup would have been a better choice there. But again, like I said, didn't matter in the end. Just not the best day from Scott Service, if we're being fair about it. All right, so I want to talk about Marco Gonzales now, who, again, as I said at the top of the show, his start is going to be quite overlooked, considering the way that this game just blew off the hinges. But he was brilliant today. I mean, it's so I haven't seen a pitcher have such a weirder year than Marco Gonzales has had this year. It's like he struggles against the A's and the Tigers, but then you need him to come through with a huge start against like the Cleveland or Atlanta, and he not only gives you a chance to win, he kind of dominated today. He didn't give up a hit until Austin Riley took him deep in the fourth, and then only gave up one more hit after that. Pitch count ran a little high, but he only gave up 5 hard hit balls, 6 innings pitched, just the 1 earned run coming off the bat of Riley, 5 strikeouts, no walks. That's pretty huge for Marco too. Did not walk anyone, did not give the Braves any free passes, and kept the base paths clear and kept the pressure off of him for most of this game. So that was huge for Marco. And that was everything that the Mariners needed and then some. It was huge. It was huge. And, say what you will about Marco, but like I said, every time the Mariners have needed a big start out of Marco, for the most part, he's come through. You think about even, earlier on in the season, back when the Mariners were struggling, he went and faced Max Scherzer in New York. Was able to give the Mariners a chance to win that game by just a run. They won that game 2-1. That was quite literally the most perfect start you could have when facing Max Scherzer in the Mets. And then the start right after that goes up against Kevin Gausman and gives the Mariners a chance to salvage a game in Toronto after a disappointing start to that series. So Marco, again, we talk about how much he's regressed this year, but I know it's kind of a meme, but it's just he keeps on coming through with these bulldog performances every time you need him. So he's been huge. Props to Marco Gonzales. That was everything the Mariners needed today. That was, wow. Good job, Marco. Just a really nice start. Yeah. So, all right, finally, before we hop off of here, Mitch Haniger leaves this game with lower back tightness, and that's it's hard to read what that means really, because that could be, it could have been just a precaution, right? They were up 6-1 at the time that they took him out of the game. They ended up pinch hitting Taylor Trammell for Haniger against a lefty, which was a red flag because they never hit Trammell against lefties. So taking Haniger out is one thing, but then putting Trammell in against a lefty was another thing, which signified like, hey, this is actually an injury. It took a while to get official word from the Mariners, but it turns out that it is lower back tightness. And again, you wonder if maybe it was precautionary because they wanted to get Trammell's glove in to protect the lead, which that didn't really help them do that. But maybe it was something like that. So hopefully no IL stint is needed. But Haniger's also been kind of going through it lately. It's been kind of a struggle for him. I believe he only has 3 or 4 hits in his last 25, 30 or so plate appearances. So it's been a rough stretch for him at the plate. So if he's kind of dealing with something right now, as crazy as it might sound, I think with, him and France dealing with the injuries that they're dealing with at the moment, and with the schedule getting a lot easier, like I said, you only got 2 more games left against teams, with a record above 500. Do you put these guys on the IL and just try to get them as healthy as possible for October? I think that's something that you have to consider at this point. Because just forcing it more and more, especially with France. In the case of France with a wrist injury, any wrong swing, any collision at first base, anything like that, any wrong move could set him back even further. And you're gonna need Ty France if you're gonna want to go deep into the postseason. You're gonna need Mitch Haniger as well. So if this is something that you feel a little nervous about, something that might need to take a few days to fully heal, I think maybe you just put him on the IL. As for who gets called up, I don't really think that it should matter, because I don't think that whoever gets called up is going to play a ton. Obviously, the big one that I'm sure a lot of you are thinking right now is Kyle Lewis, but while Lewis is performing well down in Tacoma, the big issue still stands is that he can't really play in the field right now, and you're kind of alternating Jesse Winker and Carlos Santana at DH, so there isn't really a spot for Lewis to get in there as well, at least with any sense of regularity. And I think if Haniger's got to go on the IL, it's just Taylor Trammell plays quite a bit in right field. He's the primary substitute there for Haniger, and they just go from there, and they just try to survive until Haniger gets back, and whoever gets called up maybe plays once or twice. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an outfielder, because they do have guys that can play in a corner, with Sam Haggerty, with unfortunately Jesse Winker, who's awful defensively, but I mean he could stand out there if you need him to. Jake Lamb, of course. So they have some guys who can go out there. Adam Frazier has played quite a bit of corner outfield this season as well, so that's another option. So the Mariners, the Mariners' plan, if Haniger has to go on the IL, is pretty clear in my opinion. And I think whoever would get called up would be someone like Mason McCoy, just to give some infield depth. Maybe Jonathan VR. Don't think Jarek Kelenic is an option there. And again, I don't really think that that Kyle Lewis is either, just because he can't really play in the field. Maybe Luis Torrens is an option. You get a third catcher, but you're going to have to add him to the 40-man, and then that creates a whole thing. So I don't know. I think it's going to be someone that would be relatively inconsequential, as mean as that sounds, but I think it would be someone kind of relatively inconsequential to the roster. Just someone just a body to basically fill the roster. Someone that maybe has like a tool that's useful late in games, whether it's on the base pass with their glove, what have you. And then hopefully Haniger, all he needs is the minimum 10 days to get back. We'll see on France as well. And we'll see what this team decides to do. I would assume that any move that is required or not required will be made or not be made sometime tomorrow. So we'll see then. Not sure if we're going to be recording an episode tomorrow, since I did this emergency show. We'll let you know. Check our Twitter. We'll also post an update on our YouTube if we're doing a show or not. So be on the lookout for that. But that's going to do it for me here on an emergency episode of Locked On Mariners, as the Mariners defeat the Braves 8-7 in one of the craziest finishes of the year for the Seattle Mariners. One of the biggest wins of the year for the Mariners, if not their biggest win of the year. Be sure to subscribe and all that good stuff if you haven't already. Whether you're watching or listening to this, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., or subscribe to us on YouTube. We are of course, working our way to 4,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So help us get there. And again, we are hoping that you will submit a video, a roughly 45 second to 1 minute video of you saying who you are, how long you've been a Mariners fan, and what ending the playoff drought would mean to you, to our email at lockedonmariners@gmail.com. Get that video to us by Friday, September 16th by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, and you'll get into a very special episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast coming out later this month. So again, that is going to do it for me. I've been Ty Gonzales. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On Mariners podcast, and thank you so much for making us your first listen after the Mariners' big win. We'll catch you next time here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. See ya.